Welcome, Vicki, to Game Thinking TV.
Oh, hi, Amy Jo. I'm so happy to be here.
You've worked for some amazing companies. You worked for Lyft, for Headspace. Tell us about your journey. How did you first get into design and tech?
I went to school for behavioral psychology. A friend had just suggested, well, have you thought about working in tech? And my immediate reaction was, of course not. I don't know how to program a computer. I don't know any of that world. But they connected me with someone at Google. They randomly asked me to join an experimental team that was looking at, it's a type of organizational psychology. And so I think I understood why they were interested in getting folks with that background. I was able to use Google's 20% time to slowly learn about design and kind of work on design while actually having a different role. And then eventually just transitioned into more of a communication design role and then a UX design role. And now I just fully do product design. And it's really exciting to me. So I ended up at Lyft and I was there for the following 2 years when they kind of were just very much neck and neck with Uber. It was right when Lyft Line launched and Uber Pool had announced. So after Lyft, I worked for an early stage startup very briefly. If you've watched the show like Silicon Valley, I think I felt very much like, wow, this is full Silicon Valley, this is full tech. And I think I got a little bit burned out. During the end of my time in San Francisco, I was having a very hard time sleeping. I just wasn't feeling well. And I think one of the few things that helped me was Headspace and guided meditation. I thought that I should apply to Headspace just because I was using the product so much. And they were just so nice. You can imagine the types of people that want to work on a meditation product in LA, in Santa Monica. I think with Andy being a monk, being one of the founders, and the branding, I think we very much arrived on top, which was the opposite at Lyft, where we were very much in second place. When you're in a position like that at Lyft, the way in which you prioritize your roadmap, the decisions you make and what to spend time and money on are very deliberate, but when you're the leader like Headspace, and there's all these little competitors like Calm and Simple Habit and things like that kind of sneaking up behind you, I think it's really interesting to have worked at both of those companies. I think they should see what they can do to turn up the urgency.
Headspace, the onboarding of Headspace, I think is beautiful. It's simple. It sets up the brand really well. And it does just enough customization. That style of onboarding is what I call level setting. You sort of do just enough to figure out if somebody's an experienced meditator or if they're a beginner, so that you're not giving them, stuff that doesn't make sense for them.
Well, thank you. That was like one of the biggest projects I worked on while there.
How did you you and your colleagues come up with that approach? It looks just simple and elegant, but I think that's actually really hard to get something that good.
I would say about a year or two ago, if you remember before that onboarding, I'm going to sort of try to jog everyone's memory, which is the onboarding for Headspace used to just be a series of tap through kind of Snapchat style screens, which is like, hey, welcome to Headspace. We're here to guide you. It was sort of like a 5 sentences over like 5 sort of screens. And I think that's what a lot of companies were doing at the time, which is just tell them a little bit about the app, short and sweet, get out of the way. And if it's a good app, you won't need onboarding. And I think that's probably true. I mean, hopefully you don't have to explain how to use the actual app, how to get around and find your way. But I think when I got started at Headspace, one of the first projects I worked on was the onboarding. What we did was I think it was 3 or 4 experiments that product leaders always like to do, these quick experiments. Turns out they're not quick if they all fail in succession. But we tried a couple of things to kind of slim down this onboarding, because we saw a pretty high drop off. This is typical for onboarding, maybe 70-75% drop off throughout that very short flow. There was an instructional video. We saw a lot of people leaving there. The instructional video tried to mimic what Andy would tell people as if he was meeting with them in kind of like a meditation setting, a meditation coach setting. And we also saw a lot of drop off right before the first meditation. And so the few experiments that we tried were in an effort to just alleviate this drop off. So it was very simple. It was like, well, people are leaving at various points in the flow. Maybe we'll just make the flow exitable. Maybe it's that they want to see the app or want to go directly to a meditation. We tried another experiment where instead of a video, since we saw a lot of drop off there, we kind of abstracted the content from that video and made it into like an animated GIF flow. So instead of hitting play on a video, putting in your headphones and watching it and listening for like a few minutes, it was a series of animated GIFs that help you understand how to kind of get set up and sort of, get situated for a meditation. One of the last experiments was around kind of bundling session 1 into the app download, and very quick and easy things that we thought were on the right track to kind of making this flow more effective. I think the main thing to know is that those experiments, they were quick and dirty. Each one probably took a week to design, another week to build. We shipped them next release in rapid succession, a couple weeks for bucketing and analysis. And like some of them helped get people in the app faster. Some of them helped more people do session 1. And I think we call these metrics leading indicators. And I think what's interesting about this is we were able to improve some of these leading indicators, which are like, cool, things look good, maybe it will help. But in the end, none of them improved week 2 retention. And that at the time was our North Star metric, which is if people download the app, if they do a meditation or not, are they coming back weeks later? I think what was important for those experiments is that even though they improved some immediate metrics, they didn't improve the people that were coming back to meditate. And so that sort of failure early on caused us to take a bigger step back to just do the due diligence and the work and the talking to users and the opportunity uncovering, insight uncovering, to really do a full redesign of the onboarding. And not, how can we make this better, but like, what aren't we doing? What is this kind of huge critical gap that we're missing that is causing so many people to not come back? So that was where we started. I think it was a big, long process of we did a diary study where we kind of followed people in those first 2 weeks, because we kind of saw that those first 2 weeks were very make it or break it for folks trying to learn meditation. We learned that most of the people downloading Headspace were very new to meditation. I don't even think they would have said they wanted to learn meditation. I think they would have said, I heard this was something that was good for me, and I'm just checking it out. And so when you're talking about level setting and you're talking about what are the steps that we decided to include, it was a very long process of like, we went very wide. We thought about all the things people could want, whether it's science facts and sort of proof and justification about the benefits of meditation, or whether it's kind of level setting and understanding, like, have you never meditated before? Do you actually not even know what it is? All of that was in an effort to get people to feel really prepared and confident in their first time meditating. We asked 3 questions in the onboarding. One is, what's your experience with it? The second is, what's your intention or your goal and intention for being here? And the third is, when do you want to meditate? It's sort of a subtle nudge to set up a habit anchor and to set up kind of a daily routine. But the second question was so important to ask, because people just kind of, whatever the crowd is doing, at the very least, they'll check it out. And I think Headspace is one of those things where you download it aspirationally. You hear that you should be doing it. When you get into it, I think the old way was like, whoa, you want me to sit here for 10 minutes and meditate? Like, I don't even know what it is. Taking that time to ask people what they want out of an app like this, or what they want in their lives, what they're here for. It sounds obvious, but it wasn't obvious to a lot of them. They hadn't taken the time to think about what it is that they want in their lives at that moment. This onboarding has done really well. It's improved our retention, and it's, I think, set people up for success. But you're always going to have that person on growth or that person on product who's like, hey, this is a long onboarding. These are several taps, a lot of screens that you can't exit out of, and there's still going to be drop off. Getting the numbers up short term is one thing, and sort of setting people up for success in the long term is another thing. I would rather not have subscribers if they weren't ready. I would rather not kind of take their money if they're not ready. And I know that's contrary to how to run a business.
Well, there's a difference between a sustainable business
Sure.
and a bubble pop. Really well-managed companies that are managing for retention will integrate the goals of the growth person and the person who's doing the 2-week retention.
Yeah.
Because if all you're doing is get them in the door, and that person's metrics and incentive systems and way they look at things isn't integrated with the person 2 weeks in and 2 months in. If all of that isn't integrated, you will run into many, many local maxima and not know how to get around them. I did a bunch of work with Netflix, and that was exactly the problem we were tackling, was measuring metrics and having retention issues and not being able to solve them because of silos and local maxima.
Right.
Does that ring any bells?
Yeah, and it's like, because each team has their OKRs and they're trying to be successful. And this is kind of goes back to what we were saying about each company trying to be successful. Like, local maxima are just a result of each team trying to do their team good. And you can't blame them.
Thank you so much, Vicki, for joining us today and sharing your stories and what you've learned along the way about entrepreneurship and innovation and creativity.
Of course. It's been so fun talking with you. I hope it's been helpful.
And thank you again for joining us on Game Thinking TV.
Hey, innovator. Wondering what innovation advice you should follow? It turns out that one size does not fit all. Take our Innovators Quiz and get your free customized cheat sheet packed with smart innovation tips that are tailored to you. Go to gamethinking.io/quiz to get started.